Hello, this is Alexander Siddig, and you're listening to Kneel Before Pod, and don't tune out.
Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
Internet. The current frontier. These are the voyages of the website Kneel Before Blog. Its continuing mission to explore strange new shows, to seek out conversations about nerdy obsessions, to have discussions that many have had before. Hello, and welcome to another Trek-tastic edition of Kneel Before Pod. I'm your host Craig McKenzie, and I'm here to celebrate the biggest day in the Star Trek calendar. For those not in the know, that's First Contact Day. On April the 5th, 2063, the fictional Zefram Cochrane takes humanity into a new age when his ship, the Phoenix, travels faster than light. This is our celebration of that joyous future date. Here celebrating the most glorious of Star Trek holidays, where no one's actually on holiday, is Sandy.
Hello!
Long time no appearance on podcast.
Indeed, my ship got caught in Tychon's Rift. It was terrible. Blowing
and
up
the transporter's
constantly.
not working, so we had to shuttle you in today.
Yes, I've got all my clothes on this time, thank you.
Yeah, which is good for everybody, I think.
Yes. No one wants to see that.
Yeah. So, biggest day in the Star Trek calendar, other than 17th of January, which nobody celebrates.
No, because the Americans would write it 0117.
Yeah, so
Sucks
that
to be
doesn't work.
them.
Yeah, at least this is one we can all agree. April 5th. You know, what would this year's be the negative anniversary? You know, it's 2063 minus
20. Yeah, hang on a second. Let me just check. Do the math on that.
Yeah.
Minus 46.
Yes, so
Yep.
the minus 46th anniversary, not exactly a landmark year. Minus 40, that'll be the big year.
But hey, it's still within our potential lifetime.
Yes, it is.
So you never know.
Yeah.
You have
Could
46 years, scientists.
Yes. Some guy called Zefram Cochrane better get his act together. He'd be born now, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he should be born roughly about this time, and he looked like he was in his 40s, maybe early 50s.
Yeah.
Not discussed exactly how old he is when he does First Contact, but
No.
woof.
Yes. So, start with, this is kind of, obviously Star Trek films mean different things to different people, so we talked about it briefly on the old 50th anniversary one, but what's your kind of history with this film and your thoughts on its quality?
I went to see it on its opening weekend. Well, within a couple of days of its opening weekend, sorry. I was 16 at the time, so a young'un, and yeah, it had a big impact on me. There was nothing about it I didn't like, and it's still the same way. I love the uniforms in it. I mean, up until that point, the Next Generation Mandarin collar, basically season 3 onwards uniforms were my favourite. Star Trek uniform costume of all time. Then First Contact came out, and you had these grey, business-like, almost more militaristic, but not quite looking uniforms, and I'm like, and I wanted one, and so badly, and about 4 years ago, I finally managed to get one.
Yay!
I had it made for me, to make sure it fitted properly, and I love wearing it whenever I go to a convention. Just put the qualifier out. I don't sit here and wear it when I'm on my lonesome.
Don't lie.
No, I don't. Seriously. People accuse me of that all the time. I don't know why.
There's no problem with it. I imagine it's quite warm if it's made of wool.
Yes, I've worn it in Atlanta a few times now. My word, it's warm over there, and with the wool, and it's got a nice thick layer of wool for the finisher layer, or the layer that you see. But underneath, you've got several layers of fleece and wadding. So all in all, you're talking about half an inch to 1.5 centimeters for the metric of stuff on the shoulders, and then I had it lined as well because I'm an idiot. And it's
that's why they've got the waistcoat and all that stuff, you know.
Indeed, and it's screen accurate. I can unzip it, and walk around like that. That annoys the stormtroopers.
Well, Star Trek uniforms don't have zips, of course.
Well, no,
it's a zipless future.
In the future, they use some sort of nano something or another. But in I've had to retro. What do you call it?
Retrofit.
Retro engineer.
Yeah. Reverse
engineer it, and the nearest equivalent technology I could find is the humble zip.
Or possibly Velcro. That could work.
Velcro could possibly work. Yes, I mean, I'm going to get someone to make me TNG dungarees. What you don't. Seriously, what they had underneath there from season 3 onwards, you know how you had the Picard maneuver?
Yes. Because
the top was separate. Underneath that, they're wearing basically dungarees. The pants, as they call them, come up to just over their belly button, and then they've got straps that go over their shoulders, so that no matter what position they're holding their arms at and stuff like that, if the top did ride up, you weren't seeing undershirt or bare skin.
Yeah, so because why would anybody want to be comfortable on a starship?
Absolutely. Every actor I've spoken to, especially the First Contact onwards costumes, bringing us right back onto subject. They called them Garbadine Hell. I was talking to Alexander Siddig last year at DragonCon, and he complimented me for being able to stand the heat in my Garbadine Hell, as he called it. And I went, yes, it is a bit on the warm side, even with the zip open.
Yeah, and under studio lights and things.
Yes,
it's not going to be the most comfortable.
He did say it was roughly the temperature in that room, and it was quite warm, was roughly about the same as it would be on stage. And he said, I'm sweating, and I'm sitting here in a pair of cargo pants and a loose-fitting T-shirt. You must be dying in that Garbadine Hell.
And of course, Alexander Siddig does the celebrity endorsement introduction on this very podcast.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, I went back in time and made that happen.
Superb.
Yeah, my thoughts on First Contact when it came out in the cinema. I never got the opportunity to see it at the cinema. I really wanted to, but no one would ever take me for some reason. Yeah, I still haven't seen it at the cinema. Yeah, which is it's pretty annoying. But I remember I got it rented for me for a birthday on VHS.
Wow.
And I enjoyed it. And it's kind of a film that's grown on me as years go on. I think at one point, it gets kind of universal acclaim as being one of the better ones. And sometimes when you have a bit of distance from a film, even if you like it, you get a bit hostile towards it if people are just complimenting it left and right. And there was a time where I was a bit like, well, First Contact's not the greatest, and whatever else. And I still think it's maybe not the greatest Star Trek film, but it's definitely the best Next Generation film. It's not high bar to clear, but it's the best of them.
I would put it at number 2 after The Wrath of Khan, personally.
I've never really done a ranking of all Star Trek films. It's something for me to do later. Not later on.
That's
year,
the only
but later.
That's the only ranking I've done, really. I mean, I've only ranked. Yeah, I've ranked the 3 films. First position, you've got Wrath of Khan. I don't think there really can be any other first position there.
See, I would put Undiscovered Country, personally. Is my
my Undiscovered Country is number 3. Because Undiscovered Country is number 3 for me, because that was my favourite for a long, long time until First Contact came around.
Yeah, this might be 4th under Voyage Home, maybe, but I don't know. I need to do the list.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah,
Star Trek 4, the one with the whales.
Yeah, the one with the whales. I think that stands as its own in terms of, because it's the only one that's real. It's not a comedy. It's serious, but it's also funny. It's slightly off from all the other films, which are they're actually quite serious. Whereas number 4 is a jolly little jaunt.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And it just stands on its own. I don't think you can rank it really. It's just it was a masterpiece for Leonard Nimoy. God rest his soul.
One day I will do the top 10. I will just do the original pre-reboot films because I can't be bothered figuring out where these 3 fit in. But
can you imagine the arguments? You need to do a podcast on that. Can you imagine the argumentation that's going to go on?
Yeah. If it's just me making a list, then I'm only arguing with myself, so it's fine. But which would be quite a significant argument. It does happen. But First Contact, good film. Yep. Not without its flaws, I don't think. But what film isn't? And I dare say we'll get on to the flaws as we proceed through. There are things about it that I think don't quite add up. Things about it I don't like. But on the whole, I think it's really good. Jonathan Frakes has proven himself to be a very capable director with just this film. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a shame that Thunderbirds killed his career.
What was it from this film he got 2 takes Frakes?
Yes, because he was quite efficient with his directing style. I think the film came under budget as well, although I might be making that up.
No, I think I remember reading in the Star Trek magazine back when that was a thing that it was under budget.
Yeah, and then Insurrection
long
was...
ago.
Insurrection, there was probably nothing wrong with the direction, but it's just kind of dull.
My goodness, I've just realised that's 21 years ago.
Ugh.
That's horrible that I can say that.
Yeah.
Swiftly moving on.
Well, I recently realised that Buffy is 20 years old, which I'm like, man. Loved that show, still do, but yeah.
And we're back.
And we're back, yes. So, I guess we've got our initial thoughts down on paper, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So we should just go into the spoiler section, even though it's a 21-year-old film.
Hey, don't kid yourself. I spoiled, what was it? Serenity. To someone who is a bona fide fan of anything of Joss Whedon and loves Firefly. She hadn't seen, for some reason, she had not seen Serenity.
Wow.
It's been out for what, 10 years now?
It's longer than that. Yeah. 2005, I'm sure it came out.
In my opinion, at that point, after 5 years, it's your fault if someone spoils it. Especially if it's of a genre that you are a die-hard fan of, you should have seen it by now.
I would say so. But just to be safe, just so there's absolutely no doubt, we'll, set it to spoiler alert. We're free to talk now.
You really need to turn the decibels down on that klaxon.
Well, everyone needs to be awake and make sure they're at spoiler stations.
Yeah, we'd probably put them to sleep with that chat beforehand.
Yeah, that's it. 15 minutes of that, so we need to wake everybody up. We just, ring a foghorn every 20 minutes or so, just to make sure everyone's still awake. Yeah, so the obvious place to start is the story, because it has one. The Borg were a kind of fan favourite villain throughout TNG, because they were badass, they were threatening, they were undefeatable or almost undefeatable, and obviously they did something significant to Picard. Yes. So they were tailor-made for a high-budget film treatment because, of course, why wouldn't you bring back these amazing technologically advanced villains as something that, you can spend a lot of money on and make look amazing.
Made perfect sense to me.
Yes. So I would say they were a very significant villain, and it's good that you didn't see them often at that time, to say nothing of later. So using them in the story was good. I still to this day do not think that time travel is maybe the best use of a cinematic Borg story.
Why?
Because I would still like to see that high budget Borg experience on the big screen where everyone's kind of in their own time and the stakes are as high as they can be, etc. Kind of like the Destiny the book trilogy, if you've read that.
Nope.
It's worth reading. It would be amazing if it was filmed, but I don't think it... Well, obviously it never will be at this point.
Well, to me, the time travel aspect made perfect sense, because it's one thing they hadn't done yet with the Borg. We had the incursion in Federation space in the middle of the run of TNG, and they had popped up every so often, one with lore as well. So having them just coming straight back into Federation space and then just a straight out Dukem, it would have just been a repeat of the name of the episode just completely has gone out of my head.
Best of Both Worlds?
Best of Both Worlds, yeah, exactly. It would just be a repeat
you have to hand in your stripes.
Yes, I've lost my geek card right there. Seriously, it just left my brain. But if they had just done a straight shoot 'em out again, it would just have been people would have been saying, it's just a repeat of that. It's not worth it. However, with them going back in time and messing up First Contact Day,
yes,
kind of made sense to me. It's something that we hadn't seen yet.
Yeah, the thing that's weird about it is it's obviously not the Borg's first initial plan, because they kind of fire out the sphere at the last minute and when they're about to be blown up, and then almost come up with this on the fly. Otherwise they could have just travelled back in time light years away and then flown in unnoticed, and no one would have been able to do anything about it. Then you'd have had no film, of course.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, you've got plot. You have to have plot points. You have to have plot devices.
Yeah.
I think a proper enemy would hit you where you least expect it to.
Yeah, I always never understood why they never sent more than one ship. The single ship incursion didn't work before, so let's try two this time.
That, if you ask me, was part of the Queen's arrogance. She thought she was better. She thought she could make it work.
Yeah, we'll get onto the Queen. that's another issue I've got with the film, but we'll get there. They're certainly significant, and I like the way that this film makes it a proper sequel to Best of Both Worlds, which I have no idea how accessible that would be to a Star Trek fan, a non-Star Trek fan. I suppose as long as you're willing to accept that, the Borg did something to Picard in the past, and he's still reeling from it in some way.
Yeah, it doesn't go too far into explaining it. I mean, you see that dream sequence at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is a slight hint as to what was going on. But to be honest, I think at that point, at that time anyway, they weren't designing the films for new entry people to come in and just understand everything straight away. It was for the standing fan base.
Yeah, although this film did have a wide appeal, it was weird. It was just one of those. The marketing budget was in the right place, and it made money. And there was people that didn't necessarily like Star Trek who were going to see it. But of course, it came out at a time where Star Trek was in its golden age. Mm-hmm. You had 2 TV shows on the air at the time, successful films under their belt. There was a bit of buzz about it. People were on board.
I think it was also marketed properly.
Yes.
I mean, I remember seeing posters everywhere. This was a time when, for most people, the internet was still in its infancy.
Yeah.
You didn't have the social media that you have today. YouTube wasn't invented yet, so you didn't have that, all you had is people on forums, and they would have seen posters and they would have told people about it. And I do remember people actually going to people saying that they'd gone to see films just so that they can see a trailer for this.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not the first film where people have done that. And
No, with Force Awakens, for instance.
Exactly, and certainly not the last either.
Yeah.
Exactly, as you say, Force Awakens and also Rogue One.
Yes.
And so I just think it was marketed very well, and that's probably one of the reasons why. And I think also because it was such a good film in most respects, I think people went to see it again and again and again.
Yeah. I think, it was definitely marketed properly, and there was a bit of buzz about it. I mean, I seem to remember it being featured on Saturday night British BBC television, which feels like an absolute hallmark, but bygone age. But but it did happen.
Yeah, BBC
on the National Lottery or something like that.
Yeah, was there not also someone who covered some news reporter who went to one of the premieres was it in London, and you had all these people in Star Trek garb?
Yeah, I imagine so. Yeah, I mean, you get that now anyway with everything.
Oh,
everything's a fandom now.
Absolutely. That back then it wasn't so often that you heard that you saw that. But these days, it's every film. There are people that camp out outside the cinema for 2-3 days just to be the first in.
I don't see why. I just book my ticket online and go sit in the best seat.
Exactly, but I think for some people it's all about the experience.
Yeah, sleeping on a street, great.
Yeah, sounds like just like all those people that sleep in the street to be the first to have an iPhone.
Yes,
which looks identical to the one from last year.
It's madness. Of course, not judging anyone on their life choices.
Nope, not judging at all.
Yeah. The time travel story is what it is, I think, and I think it is used well here. It doesn't feel, it's not very mired in the rules of time travel. There's none of this. Oh crap, we might be changing the future here, and in fact, they just tell everyone. Everybody gets told what the future is.
They just get on with it, don't they? They just say, right, we're here. This is how it is. Let's get on with it.
Yeah.
Especially because they have to tell him something, because he's drunk. Well, he's at that point when they get him, he's hungover. They've been attacked. The control center for the Phoenix is in tatters. All his control crew are dead. He sees no. That's it. Game over. So they have to tell him, no, you have to do this. And we're here to help you. So of course he's going to have. There would have been some sort of off-screen discussion in real life where he would have said, "What makes you think you can help me?"
Yeah, although they could have been a bit more selective with the information. I think saying, here's our ship, it's called the Enterprise. There's going to be a statue of you over there. These aliens are going to appear. They're going to land over there. You said this.
Indeed. You make good arguments, but we all get starstruck.
Yeah.
At some point. We all just turn to goo and say silly things and say things we really shouldn't when in front of someone who we really admire.
Yeah, although Riker was, he was quite calm and collected, but he was still like, I'm just going to tell you everything. It's a bit weird, but
it is a bit weird. I mean, especially in other episodes of Star Trek and everything, they've always been guarded and trying not to pollute the timeline and this, that, and the other. But
do you think temporal investigations turned up when they got back to the 24th century? So, what did you tell Cochrane? Oh yeah, only what he needed to know. It's fine.
What were those two guys called?
Dulmer and Luxley.
That's it.
Something
Dulmer
like
and Luxley. Obviously anagrams of Mulder and Scully.
Yeah.
No, they probably turned up. This is again we see the Enterprise and
Picard's like, I don't know, I was on the ship.
I was on the ship fighting the Borg.
Riker, what did you do? Well, nothing. It's fine.
See, it was like this.
Yeah.
It was Thomas. It was all Thomas.
It was all Thomas.
I was on the ship as well. He just...
Yeah. Yeah. And I quite
Kudos
like
to
how
people who get what we mean by that.
I know, yeah. I quite like the... It'll be in the show notes. I'll put Thomas Riker in the show notes.
No, you just spoiled it.
Yeah, I like show notes. Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, so Cochrane... it's quite. I mean, it's that kind of typical "don't meet your heroes" sort of story, isn't it? You know, they're all expecting him to be this kind of profound, saintly figure that has opinions on everything, that always has a really inspirational thing to say, and he's just a bit of a screw up. You know, he's.
Yep.
Although I do think that sometimes they take it a bit far the other direction, as in sometimes it's like, I don't quite believe that this guy's a scientist because he doesn't really engage in any scientific discussion.
No, I think that is explained perfectly by what he says to Riker when in the cockpit. You know, you think I'm doing it for the better of man and blah blah. No, money, dollar signs.
Yeah, there could have been some kind of chat he has with Geordi about, like, I don't know, just some techno-babbly stuff, just to make it look like, okay, here's a guy that could invent warp drive, fine, he knows what he's talking about. You don't really get that, you just get him kind of cutting about.
I think because what they were doing is they were using the already well-known history of Cochrane. We all know who Zefram Cochrane is. If you're a Star Trek fan, you know who Zefram Cochrane is. Hell, he's got a unit of measurement named after him in the universe.
And you've seen that really bad episode of the original series.
We won't go into that. But we know who Zefram Cochrane is, so we know he's a scientist, we know he's an engineer, we know he invented warp drive. We don't need to go into that kind of thing in the film. There he is, and he's completely opposite to what people think he is. Yeah. Which I thought was quite good. It was a nice little switcheroo, but also it's something that has happened. In many, I mean, I remember watching Will Wheaton talk about William Shatner. And what rating are we going for on this podcast, by the way?
I will bleep out swearing with phaser sound or something.
It needs to be said because he was on the set of The Next Generation as Crusher, and he was in his spacesuit, under which he had a sort of like a muscle suit to beef him up a little. Seriously, so he had the spacesuit around his waist and the muscle suit unzipped and then just hanging loose from that. And across the hallway, on the other stage, there he sees William Shatner. They're filming. I believe it was Star Trek 5. And there he is. He sees him, but he doesn't want to go over because it's his idol. He doesn't want to go over and say hello. So eventually, I can't remember who it was, but someone facilitates going to meet him. And William Shatner goes, "Oh, so you're the kid on the Enterprise of the new series? I would never let a kid on my bridge." And then he walks off. And at that point, and here comes the beeper, William Shatner became William Shatner.
Poor guy. Poor Will Wheaton.
You shouldn't always meet people who you look up to, because they can disappoint you.
Yeah, fair enough. I think with Cochrane, they could have done this. It could have been quite funny to have this whole. I'd almost forgotten he came up with this stuff after they'd spent a few hours with him, and he just didn't exhibit any signs of brilliance. And then there could have been one scene where he just did, and then Geordi was like, "Oh yeah, there's the guy I was reading about."
Okay, I agree with you with that. And a nice little, a little problem, and he says, "Well, why don't you do hickamabob?"
Yeah.
And suddenly, oh yeah, there's the brilliance.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, it was just hidden under all the tequila.
Yeah, okay, he did like his tequila.
Yeah, but Cochrane's great. Zefram Cochrane, yes, that's the character's name. James Cromwell, great actor.
Fantastic. He
Not his first time in Star Trek either.
No, he was last we saw of him. He was the director of that Clone World, wasn't he? Or did we see him after that?
He was in an episode of DS9 as well. I always remember him being a Gamma Quadrant species.
Karamar. He was one of the Karamar. That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
Indeed. That may have been just before or just I can't remember, or maybe around the same time. I cannot put
Yeah,
I'm
depends
not
what
sure.
year. Yeah, season 5 of DS9, whatever year that is. It'll be after this because they're wearing grey uniforms. No, are they wearing grey uniforms? I don't know. I doubt it. Might be the red uniform.
I need to go back and watch that now.
Yeah, it's a good episode.
Suffice to say, brilliant actor, and not his first or indeed his last foray into Star Trek.
No, not his last time playing this character as well.
No, indeed, we see him briefly in Enterprise.
One 2-minute, not even 2-minute cameo in Enterprise. Yeah.
Indeed, and he appeared to be a bit slightly more mature and compos mentis.
Yes.
Cochrane.
When he was giving that one speech. Yes.
Indeed. Yeah, well, they just probably pumped him full of steroids and stood, just propped him up with a brush. Says, right, go, talk.
Well, I actually think Riker, through the course of the film, started to realise that him and Cochrane were kind of a bit alike in some ways. It's that kind of knowing grin he gets when he hears what Cochrane's real plan was. And Riker was like, yeah, I get it.
Fair enough. You do. You get it. I mean, it's a world that's still ruled by money. Yeah. At the end of the day, money is power. Money is life. And he kind of gets it. Yeah, fair enough. If I've got this technology that I can invent and it's going to change the world and make me rich at the same time, you would.
Yeah. Plus Riker would probably have a lot of holodeck programs that are essentially just an island filled with naked women.
Minuets. Lots of minuets.
Yeah, or anything, really. I don't think Riker discriminates. In fact, he definitely doesn't discriminate.
No, he certainly doesn't. Riker is definitely the Kirk of the Next Generation.
Yeah. Yeah, although I do like him. I've always liked Riker, and I think Jonathan Frakes is great in this. And
yes.
Especially when he's behind the camera as well. I mean, I know that early versions of the script had Riker on the Enterprise and Picard on the surface, but they changed it because of the, it's more personal if Picard fight the Borg rather than moralise with Cochrane. But,
indeed, and it takes a big man to do that and not steal the limelight. Yeah,
so having Riker down on the planet allowed him to kind of... It probably, most of his scenes are just lines. So he just has to learn lines, and that's it. But so when it comes to direction, it was probably a little bit easier for him to just to do that rather than direct himself doing big action stuff.
Indeed, and it's because of that he's the one Next Generation star that I'd really like to meet first. Yeah,
I'd love to meet Frakes. Yeah, he seems like a good guy.
I mean, from what I've heard, he's just an officer and a gentleman.
Yeah. Yeah, but this the thing about this film, for me, that separates it from Generations, for example, is that it feels like a film, whereas Generations just doesn't. Generations looks a bit embarrassing because they're using TV sets. It's kind of lit like a TV show.
Well, no, it's not lit like a TV show. I don't think so.
Bits of it are.
I just watched Generations, and I've been watching The Next Generation on Netflix, high definition. Holy moly!
I've got it on Blu-ray.
It's highly recommended. If you've not seen Next Generation in high definition, stop what you're doing. In fact, no, listen to the end of this first, like us, then go and watch it. Seriously. It's really, really, really good. It makes it look like they filmed it last week.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Get back to the subject. I've been watching that, and then I watched the Generations the other day because I just fancied to do so. And it is darker. It's lit darker. It's much more moody. The Enterprise bridge is also much darker. It's also got those little add-on stations on the wings, which I love. They should have had that all the way through the seasons, if you ask me.
It's a bit awkward if you have to stand on the little arch thing, though, when working one of the consoles.
Yeah, I suppose. But ultimately, that's why the Enterprise D had to be destroyed.
Yeah,
because
it wasn't fit for filming. Yeah.
Exactly. The Enterprise D, with her squat nature, was designed for 4x3 screens, not for 16:9 cinematic screens. Yeah. That's ultimately the reason why she had to die at the end of the day. Still don't like the punk ass way they made her go. I mean, in any episode, they would have had the shield modulation rotated in nanoseconds. Data would have been sitting there going, they've matched our shield frequency. Tap, 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 tap. Right, modulated. Cool. Yeah. And then one phaser blast, and that bird of prey would have been history.
Yep.
but plot device and all that, they had to destroy the Enterprise.
Yeah, it's not
And
ideal.
I had not seen anything about the film before I went to go and see it. So I was dumbstruck when the Enterprise went. I was sat there, mouth agape. And again, in First Contact, I was sat there, mouth agape, through the entire film. Especially the reveal of the Enterprise.
Well, it's a very nice looking ship. It's very sleek. It's
One of Johnny's best.
Yeah, it looks
designs.
It looks like more of a warship.
Yes and no. Yeah, it's got slightly darker colours and shading. It makes it look like it's slightly camouflaged in a way.
It's also a bit nimble. It looks, it's more nimble.
She certainly looks sleeker and faster, definitely. She doesn't seem to possess the same prowess as the Galaxy class, in my opinion. You see a Galaxy class coming towards you, big, massive behemoth of a ship coming towards you. You're not going to mess with it, are you?
No. I mean, of course they're both powerful ships, but
and the Enterprise just has a more squatter, leaner look. The Enterprise E, has a squatter, leaner look to her, and she's a better ship in all ways. And
in every measurable sense, as Picard would say.
Yes.
Yeah. It's quite an interesting thing, actually. I mean, what you've got is Wolf 359 in the Star Trek universe is basically 9/11 before 9/11 could, before you could reference 9/11, it was 9/11.
Yes.
So, so what you've got is you've got this pretty sweet ride for Starfleet officers before. They could just be geologists or botanists or whatever they wanted. It was great. The Romulans were in hiding. There wasn't really any enemies encroaching on the wings, and everybody could just kind of be pacifists and do whatever they want. And then Wolf 359 happens, and everything changes. So what you've got is a Federation that have to develop technology that defend themselves. Everything, other powers in the quadrant are starting to encroach in. Everything is just kind of getting a bit more bleak. So what you've got is this design sensibility that evolves from that. You've got this kind of, okay, we need to look more serious, so our ships need to look meaner, our weapons need to pack more of a punch, our uniforms need to be more militaristic, and that's that kind of the design aesthetic, because it kind of it sort of applies to every ship you see built after the Enterprise E, or around about the same time as well. I mean, you don't see that many, but it does apply, I think.
I think it does. It certainly. I would agree that Starfleet definitely took a look at itself after Wolf 359, and decided, well, we need to be bigger, we need to be better, and there needs to be more of us.
Yeah.
Which is why, by the time the Dominion War came about, they had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ships. It's because they were not only because they were bringing things out of mothballs, but because we had they had built more ships.
Yeah.
The Akira class, for example, a fan favourite. You see it for just mere moments in the film, and at various different scales as well.
Yeah.
But it's a fan favourite. And
you see it in Voyager a few times.
You do. You see one of them in what Voyager episode is it where 7 of 9 goes back in time?
Yeah, they're building one. Yeah.
You see Voyager actually in a space dock, and you see one Akira class being built and another one leaving.
Yeah, there's some in the Endgame as well.
Yes, indeed. So it's a.
Let's not talk about that though.
Yeah, and it's just a good design, and it looks very militaristic, and if you want to believe some of the hype about it, it's got umpteen hundred torpedo launchers, which frankly I don't like the idea of.
It's probably got like 4 or 5.
4 or 5 is just enough, and I don't prescribe to this nonsense that but you've got torpedo launchers that are facing this way and that way for no. The Next Generation has shown us that a torpedo can fly in any direction.
Yeah. So
you don't need your torpedo launchers to be pointing in the one direction.
It's certainly a more mature design aesthetic, I think, and it's more.
It certainly is. Yes.
It's more interesting to look at as well. And obviously the Enterprise E looks kind of it's some of the CGI is a bit dodgy because it's 1996, but
it still holds up.
Yeah, there's just something about it that looks kind of too shiny, if you know what I mean. It's something they largely fixed by Nemesis, actually, but here it looks a little bit.
The Enterprise in First Contact is an actual model.
Some of it is, yeah.
Most of it is. It's they built. It was I think it was the last motion capture model that they made.
But there is a lot of CGI in there as well, just to get the movements and things.
But I mean, the only thing I noticed when I rewatched it the other day is when you zoom in on them walking along the hull, you can tell it was a model.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely a model. Yeah, that part.
You can just tell. Oh, that's a model.
Yeah, it's a nice looking film. The bridge set is really good as well. Very filmable, of course.
Oh yeah, it's a really nice design.
Yeah.
Again, I think John Eves had his hand in that.
Yeah. For some reason, Troy is still allowed to sit on there, but you know.
Well, they're probably at this point just put that seat in extra for her.
Yeah. Yeah, we need a therapist. Yeah. No, we don't.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, the Enterprise always has the tendency of finding trouble.
Yes.
And I'm sure that's mentally taxing on people.
Yeah. But, so this film, other than the design of it, this film focuses quite tightly on Picard because it's all his kind of emotional journey. It's a revenge plot for him, essentially. You know, he hates the Borg and wants to get back at them for what they did to him, which you can understand. And the fear is, from Starfleet, certainly at the start of the film, is that his vendetta that they think he has will get in the way of that. So they send the Enterprise off to the neutral zone to, you know, scan comets, which I'm sure most of the crew are quite happy about. I know I would be. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're not fighting the Borg. Great. Woohoo! I might not get assimilated this week. Brilliant.
We get to stay out here. This is a brilliant job. It's a milk run. Awesome.
I'll be scanning that comet if anyone needs me.
And then Picard's like, no.
Yeah. What always struck me about the start of this film is you've got the briefing. You know, obviously you see these every episode, or sometimes 4 times an episode. You know, so all the senior staff are getting together, having a chat about what's going on, and you've got everyone there except Worf's replacement. So apparently, the chief tactical officer or the chief security officer isn't allowed in the meeting.
I had not noticed that. All this time,
it's everybody except who would replace Worf. It was
indeed.
It's this.
It's almost like they didn't think of all that.
Yeah, but the thing is, you've got this helmsman guy, you know, Hawk, played by Neil McDonough.
Yes.
Couldn't he have been the tactical officer?
Yeah, indeed, and just had Ensign Gates back at the con.
Just whoever, just some guy sitting there, who cares? Like, you know, they never bothered with a pilot before. Like,
and it would... hang on a second. No, it wouldn't explain why they needed a tactical officer. Maybe they didn't have a tactical officer at that time, or even a stand-in one.
Well, they'd have needed one because essentially Worf left. So when Picard was getting a crew together for the Enterprise E...
Absolutely. What I was thinking about the time immediately preceding the events in the film. Maybe the tactical officer was on leave because they, as soon as Worf comes on and insists on coming to the bridge, what does Picard say? We could use you. We could use your help at tactical because there's no one standing there.
Yeah.
So they don't have a tactical officer.
Someone fired the phasers and torpedoes that blew up the Borg cube.
Well, yeah. It would appear that at the time of need, when Red Alert came on, whoever was the next in line would be sitting at that, standing at that console. You'd want it manned in a tactical situation, but that doesn't mean that the person who was there is the best for the job. And then walks on your ex-tactical officer who you know is really good at the job. Yeah. Of course, you're going to say, right, can you take that console for me, please?
Well, of course, the film doesn't really have time to establish that. Yeah, so this is a new you.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, you just stand next to him. So they needed
for the
to
get Worf onto the ship.
Yeah, they needed Worf in his kind of old position.
They needed the position open for him, and for whatever reason, it was open.
Yeah, but it's just there was no one there. But
yeah.
But I think Hawk could have been a good stand-in for that because Worf wasn't necessarily needed to do any. anything other than help them shoot at Borg.
Indeed, he didn't necessarily actually even have to take the tactical console at any time. He could have just been on the ship because he was quite rightly. They saved him. They beamed him off the Defiant, and so he's already on the ship. So they could have still had him in the film and doing everything he did in the film. They just didn't necessarily need him at the tactical console.
Yeah. Incidentally, the Battle of 001, Sector 001 is really cool.
It's probably the most epic Star Trek battle sequence ever.
Well, I would say the Scimitar battle sequence is impressive as well.
Actually, yes. No, you're quite right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Up until that point, that was probably the best battle sequence ever. Obviously, we got treated to a lot of battle sequences in the Dominion War arc. Spoilers.
Yeah. With stock footage and
yeah. The least said about that, the best. I mean, every now and then they did give us a smattering of new CGI.
Every now and again.
Yeah. But up until that point, that was the most epic battle sequence I'd ever seen in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Ships exploding, lots and lots of ships all over the place. It was just brilliant.
And it's very short as well, weirdly.
It is. You only... I think someone cut it together, and it's only like 20, 25 seconds long altogether.
Yeah, you've got the quick shot of the Defiant. You've got the kind
doing what she was designed to do, finally.
Yeah. And not succeeding, strangely.
No. Well, the Defiant class ship wasn't designed to take on a cube on its own.
No, it was supposed to be a few of them. Yeah.
There was supposed to be fleets of them, and they were just going to send waves and waves of them at them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was only one Defiant at that point.
Yeah. Well, that we know of, anyway.
Well, at that time,
well, there was definitely two.
Really?
The Valiant was lost.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the Valiant would have existed at that point.
At that point, the Valiant would have existed. Yes, you're quite right.
Yeah, but seeing the Defiant in battle was quite cool. I think it's one of the first times you would have ever seen it in CGI as well.
Indeed, and we saw it from behind.
Properly.
And we didn't see it from the front. We saw it from behind. So none of that really horrible, mucked up navigational deflector nose.
Yeah, you kind of see it from above as well. That kind of
yes, you do. It's really nice, and I like the way you see it zip in and out of the wreckage and stuff like that. It's really, really, really nice.
Yeah, and it gives Worf such an epic introduction, where the bridge is in ruins and he's really angry and
he's like ramming speed
and beating his console. And the look of terror on the helmsman's face when he orders ramming speed. It's like no.
It's like, oh...
it's really bad news for the reserve Defiant crew that day, isn't it?
Yeah, I really should have stayed in bed that day. No, it's
turns out my shift is the day the Borg attack. Fantastic.
The ship... The bridge is in utter tatters, and he's beating on this console. It's like, it is so Worf. He's beating it out of sheer frustration. It's like, damn you for breaking on me.
And he looks genuinely disappointed when the Enterprise shows up and he doesn't get to kill himself.
Like,
there's that kind of look of, what?
It's like, bollocks.
Yeah, and then the Enterprise shows up and then he doesn't get to kill himself. And he's kind of salty about it for a little while afterwards as well.
Yeah, he's not 100% sold on the fact that he should not be on the shouldn't have destroyed himself and his crew.
Yeah.
But
the Defiant crew are just like, thank God.
And of course, the Klingon music just adds to it.
Yeah.
You couldn't have had any other music at that moment.
Yeah, having the Klingon theme for Worf, associated with Worf in this film, is a stroke of genius.
Yeah, it works.
Report! Main power's offline. We've lost shields. Our weapons are gone.
Perhaps today is a good day to die. Prepare for ramming speed!
Sir, there's another starship coming in. It's the Enterprise.
He has so many great moments throughout as well. I really like the bit. He's always talking about how few shots they've got, and every time he tells it, it's a little bit less. So at first it's 12 shots, and then it's 1 or 2 shots, and so on.
It's good attention to detail.
Yeah, and then but the first thing he does when the Borg are alerted when they're going after engineering is he tells everyone to ready phasers, and then he hits the nearest one with his phaser.
Yeah, he twats one over the head with, with the butt of the rifle.
Yeah, not a wasted shot.
That's exactly what a Klingon would do if you think about it. Klingons prefer hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, and it's obviously he knows how few shots they've got. He's got the opportunity to kill one without using one of their few shots, so that's what he does.
Indeed,
and
exactly.
Then he reaches for his mechleth later when they're out in 0G.
Yep, that's a nice scene. That is a good scene. And then when he turns up afterwards, and the dismembered hand of this of this Borg with the tubes coming off it, and he's used that to repair his suit. That is just so Worf.
I wonder how he managed to get enough traction to tie a tight enough knot in the vacuum of space. Also, if Archer's suit self seals in Enterprise, why doesn't Yeah,
they hadn't thought of that at the script. I just hadn't thought of that.
No, Worf gets in the defective suit. That's what happens.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. That's the in-universe explanation. Definitely, they weren't expecting Worf. There are no Worf-sized suits. So, apart from this one crappy one, which they were going to replace, but seeing that you're here, wear it.
Yeah, you won't get hit, right? It's fine.
That's definitely the in-universe explanation for that.
And of course, he gets the Arnie line in that sequence as well when he says "assimilate this." Before, even though no one's around to hear it.
Well, Picard's there.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's actually hearing it.
Oh yeah, well, they must do because they were talking to each other, but just before the events that led up to that.
Yeah.
Assimilate this.
Yeah, Worf has so many cool moments, and obviously the stare down he has with Picard on the bridge, where
oh yes, well you're nothing but you're just a coward. That look that he gives, and you genuinely believe what he says. If you were anyone else,
if you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand, and
he would.
Yeah, but the interesting thing, Picard doesn't flinch.
No,
when he hears that,
he does not.
Yeah,
what we see there is the worst of both characters.
Yeah.
Picard at his most angry, and because all the way through the Next Generation, he's been cool, calm, and collected, with the occasional small gripe. But this one, in this film, we see him, if he had any hair, let his hair down.
Yeah,
we see his true internal character come out.
Yeah,
calling Worf a coward is calling any Klingon a coward when they're standing right in front of you is a foolhardy thing to do.
Yeah.
Sir, we have lost the Enterprise. We should not sacrifice...
We have not lost the Enterprise, Mr. Worf. We are not going to lose the Enterprise. Not to the Borg, not while I'm in command. You have your orders.
I must object to this course of action.
The objection is noted.
With all due respect, sir, I believe you are allowing your personal experience with the Borg to influence your judgment.
You're afraid. You want to destroy the ship and run away. You coward.
Jean-Luc.
If you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand.
Get off my bridge.
It's later on when he apologises and he says, "I regret some of the things I said to you earlier."
And then, yeah, Worf's
like some.
So like you and I, we're going to have a chat later on.
Yeah, it's like I'm going back to Deep Space Nine.
Screw yeah, that could explain why he heads back to Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, well, I think he was going back there anyway.
Indeed. I think he was just basically seconded to Admiral Hayes' fleet because he had a warship.
Yeah, I'm going back to Deep Space Nine. When I threaten to kill people, they take notice.
Yeah.
Mr. Worf. I regret some of the things I said to you earlier.
Some.
As a matter of fact, I think you're the bravest man I've ever known.
Thank you, sir.
See you on Gravette Island.
Yeah, it's just great. and it's good to see Worf getting given stuff to do. I think he's pretty much always been my favourite Star Trek character, especially with his, this is the Deep Space Nine Worf you're seeing here, right? The version that's confident. He's, he's a commander on his own. He knows a bit about command. He's not taking orders blindly like he used to.
Well, he was put in command of the Defiant, wasn't he?
Yeah.
On Deep Space Nine, and of course, Deep Space Nine was his home.
Yeah.
Sorry,
the
Defiant was his home. He bunked on the Defiant, didn't he?
Yeah, eventually, yeah. And he was allowed to develop in Deep Space Nine in ways that he could never do in Next Generation. They took the character in different directions, and this is the version you see here. Whereas in the other TNG films, you see him he's just kind of there to be laughed at.
Yeah, he doesn't do much in Insurrection.
Other than go through puberty again, which is hilarious.
I mean, it's quite literally, Klingons don't do anything small.
Yeah.
And then in Nemesis, he really doesn't do much at all.
No. He gets drunk, or he's hungover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talks about Minsk a lot.
Yeah. Does he do that in Insurrection? I don't think he does that in Nemesis at all. I think he...
No, it's Insurrection that... no.
I'm sure it's the Deep Space Nine finale he talks about Minsk, where he's telling O'Brien where he should move to.
Yes. He keeps on repeating Minsk.
Minsk, yeah. But yeah...
no, because in the wedding... in the wedding reception scene, he's out of his head on Romulan ale.
Yeah, and cursing Irving Berlin for some reason.
Yeah.
Although he gets to sing in Insurrection, which is quite funny. A bit of Gilbert and Sullivan.
Oh, that was funny. That's probably one of the best scenes of that film, where Picard says sing and Worf just shakes his head at him.
It's when he thinks Gilbert and Sullivan might be new crew members.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've not had time to familiarise myself with the new crew members. No, Worf, it's a song.
They're composers.
They're composers. And then sing, Worf, and he just looks at him and shakes his head as to say, "Are you mad?"
Yeah. And I've always wondered about that scene where something at Red Alert, you can get access to the karaoke software with 3 button presses.
Yeah, indeed.
So here's the phasers, here's the photons,
and here's the karaoke.
Here's the karaoke machine. Because you never know.
The karaoke machine is for when you've shot your last torpedo and you're about to die. You might as well sing.
Yeah. Just
pass the time until that disruptor shot incinerates you.
Yeah. So anyway, on to Picard, I guess. We were kind of segueing away from Picard, but his vendetta becomes more apparent as the film progresses. I think he deals with it okay in the beginning, but as he starts losing his ship to them, he starts to lose his mind a bit.
He does. He does, and as referenced in the film, he does go a bit Ahab.
Yeah, well, and Patrick Stewart had done Moby Dick,
which I thought
to this as well.
Yeah, which I thought was a really nice coincidence. Yeah. I wonder if they actually wrote that scene and those lines to coincide with that or not.
Yeah, could have been. Yeah, and
I wonder.
And the interesting thing about this conflict is, or his internal conflict, is Lily being there because she's a complete outsider. She just doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know anybody. She doesn't know anything about the situation, really.
And of course, he falls for her.
In a sense, I think actually Lily could have been any gender without affecting the story at all.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Picard kind of having eyes for her.
I think he more respects her than anything else.
I don't know. I think he's got eyes for her.
He could too.
But I don't think that has anything to do with the run of the film as such,
no.
or the events. Like you say, could have been any gender, and everything would have turned out more or less exactly the same.
Yeah, but the way she challenges him and everything. So obviously she's there, kind of in the beginning for the exposition, so that the Borg, what are they? And so Picard's like, this is what the Borg are, and then here's the 24th century. So it almost gives you a bit of a Star Trek crash course.
Yeah,
for people that don't know the franchise.
Actually, that's quite a good observation.
Yeah, it's quite succinct as well. It's just, okay, in the 24th century we don't have money, we're better than that. but, if you try and download this film illegally, we'll come for you. It's that kind of... It's almost that sanctimonious season 1 of Next Generation type of chat, So, no,
almost,
we're better than
yeah.
money. But the DVD sets of this TV series are a fortune. So
but slightly less of the arrogance, yeah.
Yeah, and the whole promoting togetherness and humanity and so on. Especially cut to Lily, who is just out of the Third World War. Trump's just nuked the world. Or the Eastern Coalition have just nuked the world. Someone's nuked the world. I imagine the Eastern Coalition rose up to defeat Trump. Maybe. Political.
Well, he certainly thinks that him potentially being part of this Eastern Coalition is a bad thing. So he says, I'm not a member of the Eastern Coalition.
Well, it's a bad thing for her.
So it's a bad thing... Yeah, it was a bad thing for her, yeah. So that's
he'll
why
know
that's why he qualifies himself as not being part of it.
Yeah, he'll know that she's American. The Eastern Coalition were, I assume, America's enemies. Or the Western Coalition, I suppose. And so, he identifies as not being a member of them, which is fine, and it's enough for her to not vaporise him. But the interesting thing is she's just out of a world war. She's probably looking for a bit of hope. Feels like things are a bit hopeless because the Earth is in ruins by the looks of things. Based on this
and along comes Captain Picard and crew.
Yeah, and it's like, don't worry, in the future we thrive, and it's kind of because of you. Sort of. But if it wasn't for you scrounging together all that titanium to build a 4-metre cockpit, I wouldn't be here trying to save you.
Indeed.
Yeah. So there's that kind of positive message, so it does kind of teach her a bit about the future, but she also, this evolved sensibility that he claims to have, she sees that it's complete bull, at least in this case.
Oh, that it's, indeed, that when properly motivated, that goes out of the window.
Yeah, and it reminds me of something Quark said in Siege of AR-558 about humans are great when they're comfortable, in their warm beds with bellies full, etc. But you take all that away, and they're as violent as the most bloodthirsty Klingon. Something like that. The quote is along those lines.
Yes. Yeah. No. So, I know.
Yeah. So Picard is at his limit here, and he's not exactly behaving at his best.
It's very personal for him because they took him away, and they made him destroy 39 ships and tens of thousands of personnel.
Yeah, and they're kind of trying to do it again.
They used his knowledge, yeah. So it's a personal vendetta. It's bringing all those feelings back. Admiral Hayes was more or less correct in his summation of the whole situation. As no, we need to keep you away from this.
Yeah, but it's a good job he died, right? Because it's going to be like, can you believe I didn't let Picard join the fight? That would have been a mistake.
Indeed. Yep.
Yeah.
And of course, Picard being once Picard turns up on the scene, within about a minute,
it's gone.
The ship's destroyed.
Although to be fair, sheer attrition had heavily damaged it up to that point.
Oh, it had been damaged, but it was still nowhere near the point where the Starfleet ships were going to stop it.
No.
It's until Picard came along and says, right, target this inconspicuous area.
Yeah, although I do quite like the idea that the Borg aren't they aren't all powerful. If you just keep picking at them, you'll eventually get through.
Exactly. It's not our weapons have no effect. It's just we've got BB guns and it'll take a while, but if you keep at it, you will eventually wear them down. Yeah.
May not be enough time to do anything, but possibly.
Indeed, whether or not you can do it before they get to that vital place that you don't want them to get to is another matter.
Yeah. So there's that, but the idea is they're taking his ship away from him a piece at a time. They're taking his people away from him a piece at a time, and he's essentially at his breaking point. And that's why he keeps ordering people to their death. When it's stand your ground, fight them hand to hand if you have to, and that's not a rational order. And that's like. Essentially, what Worf could have done is, or what Crusher could have done is had him declared medically unfit, probably at that point. Mm-hmm. Or at least tried to.
Yeah, but for some reason she goes along with it.
Yeah, well, it's the whole idea of we carry out his orders, and she's like, this is crazy, you're probably used to his orders making sense. And it's the bit where she walks into his ready room and starts with, you son of a bitch. And it's just, that's it, that's the start of the conversation. But again, Yeah,
that needed to you at that moment. They needed someone who wasn't Starfleet, who was just a civilian and straight to the point.
Yeah, no one else could have done that except maybe the Bolian barber. He could have maybe done it. Or Guinan. Guinan's the kind of person that could have done
Guinan. If Guinan was on board, she probably would have done it. Yeah, she wouldn't have swore at him, but she would have. She certainly would have told him. Look, right. How long have we been friends? Yeah. And yeah.
Guinan, why are you on the bridge? It's like, well, they've assimilated my pub, so...
yeah, indeed. Well, they assimilated whatever the Enterprise E's version of 10 Forward is.
Yeah. There is They do name it in one of the books. I forget what it's called, though. Riker calls it something, and it's very kind of new agey, or old agey, but new agey from our point of view. It's like... yeah, but anyway, so Lily had to be the one to do it because she was disconnected enough from the situation to tell him how it is and make him see everything he's doing. And it's the fact that she calls him out for being a murderer, or enjoying killing, because he, obviously he enjoys the shooting the Borg down with a Tommy gun.
Exactly, I saw it in your eyes.
Yeah, and she sees it all the time, and she recognises the signs. And Picard doesn't like that. He obviously reacts with anger and then breaks his little ships. Which is of course a metaphor for what he would be doing if he didn't destroy the Enterprise and let the Borg win.
Yep.
Yeah.
The little bit of trivia on those ships. Those were definitely those were literally last minute additions.
Really?
Yeah. John Eves. Mm-hmm. Again, John Eves is in. He recounted how they told him they needed models to go into the ready room.
Yeah.
Sorry, the observation lounge, and those were Ertl kits, Ertl model kits, which he paid to get metallized in gold out of his own pocket, more or less.
Just so they could break them.
He handed them over to him to the production staff, who instantly put them up and then just started filming, and then they get more or less destroyed. He's actually still got one or two of them.
Interesting.
So there you go, little bit of trivia.
But yeah, it's a really powerful scene. And,
it is a powerful scene, where he takes that rifle and just smashes the what is it? It's a glass cabinet, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a case.
Display case.
Yeah.
There you go, glass display case in sheer anger.
Yeah.
And that shows you this anger that he's got against the Borg. The personal hate he has against them. It's. I don't think we've ever seen Picard that angry. No,
definitely not. Because even when he is angry, he uses it well. It's kind of...
Indeed.
It's to make a point.
Throughout the entire series, he's cool, calm, collected. Even if he is angry, you see it in one of the episode where Maxwell takes the Phoenix.
Yeah.
You see him look at Mark Alamo's character. It's not Ducat. It's
no, it's some random Cardassian.
Yeah. You see him. You see the anger in his eyes.
Yeah.
We will be watching you, and stuff like that. But he doesn't let the anger out. He doesn't let it cheapen his stance, as it were. He doesn't let it. He just keeps it within. But in this film, he just can't. He just lets it out.
Yeah.
And Lily just is the catalyst.
She brings it out in him. Yeah.
Exactly, and then makes him realise.
It's the Ahab reference that reminds him.
That was to use an old cliche. That was the camel. That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
You son of a bitch.
This really isn't the time.
Okay, I don't know jack about the 24th century, but everybody out there thinks that staying here and fighting the Borg is suicide. They're just afraid to come in here and say it.
The crew is accustomed to following my orders.
They're probably accustomed to your orders making sense.
None of them understand the Borg as I do. No one does. No one can.
What is that supposed to mean?
Six years ago, they assimilated me into their collective. I had their cybernetic devices implanted throughout my body. I was linked to the hive mind. Every trace of individuality erased.
I was one of them. So you can imagine, my dear, I have a somewhat unique perspective on the Borg, and I know how to fight them. Now, if you will excuse me, I have work to do.
I am such an idiot. It's so simple. The Borg hurt you, and now you're going to hurt them back.
In my century, we don't succumb to revenge. We have a more evolved sensibility.
Bullshit! I saw the look on your face when you shot those Borg on the holodeck. You were almost enjoying it.
How dare you?
Oh, come on, Captain. You're not the first man to get a thrill from murdering someone. I see it all the time.
Get out!
Or what? You'll kill me? Like you killed Ensign Lynch?
There was no way to save him.
You didn't even try. Where was your evolved sensibility then?
I don't have time for this.
Oh, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your little quest. Captain Ahab has to go hunt his whale.
What?
You do have books in the 24th century.
This is not about revenge.
Liar!
This is about saving the future of humanity.
Jean-Luc, blow up the damn ship!
No! No! I will not sacrifice the Enterprise. We've made too many compromises already, too many retreats. They invade our space, and we fall back. They assimilate entire worlds, and we fall back. Not again. The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther. And I will make them pay for what they've done.
You broke your little ships. See you around, Ahab.
And he piled upon the whale's white hump the sum of all the rage and hate felt by his whole race. If his chest had been a cannon, he would have shot his heart upon it.
And of course, he realises the error of his ways, and then you get self-destruct. Although, obviously, it doesn't play out that way. They don't destroy the Enterprise and get stranded in the 21st century. But
although he was prepared to do so at that point.
yes, the fact that he was willing to do it spoke volumes.
Indeed.
And for some reason, Worf has command codes.
Yeah, indeed. The way I explain that is, obviously, if you're getting him to take the tactical position and become part of the crew for a while, you tell the computer, "Oi, this guy needs command codes."
Well, I look at it like Starfleet has a login, right? And your login works anywhere. All Picard had to do is get the IT department to give him permission to use the...
That's a very good idea, Rick. I like that. Yeah. So the same command codes would have worked on a Define or DS9.
But all he had to do was have the tactical console unlocked on the Enterprise. You know, he has to phone IT. It's like that'll be 3 to 5 working days. It's like, right, we're in the middle of a Borg attack, so speed it up, please.
Yes, please. And massive interstellar phone bill.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they've outsourced it to Alpha Centauri.
Where a guy with a very, very bad accent calls himself Michael.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Yeah, so, and what I quite liked about what I always liked about the Borg in the series was that they were this collection of entities. You know, it was terrifying because there were this hive mind. There was, you know, all these resources brought in to bear on you, and it's terrifying because you can't defeat an enemy like that. You know, especially their adaptability. Yeah, that was
I mean, that was terrifying. Within a couple of shots, they had their own. They were being able to deflect the primary weapon of away teams and whatnot. I mean, like, oh wow.
Yeah, that starts to feel a bit video game after a while, though, doesn't it? It's like, oh, they've adapted again. Oh well. It's and fighting the Borg in some video games has been quite frustrating for that reason.
Mm-hmm. They are the biggest, baddest adversary in Star Trek history, if you ask me.
Until Voyager, anyway.
Well, I think they were a bit overused in Voyager, to be honest.
Yes, and they got weaker every time.
Well, for a while, when spoilers, when Species 8472 were announced, when I first saw that episode, I'm like, holy crap, something that just manages to dispatch a Borg cube with ease. I'm like, holy crap, please let these be friends of ours.
But then later on, they got less threatening as time went on, because Voyager's this tiny ship that shouldn't really be able to face them.
No, exactly. After the arrangements of that episode where Species 8472 and everything come in, after that they should have posed much more of a threat, because the Borg have got what they want, so they don't care about Voyager anymore. In any normal situation, the size of the Voyager would have had her taken within minutes.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the episode where Voyager fights the tactical cube,
yes,
and it takes, I don't know, a dozen hits or something like that, and keeps going. But in reality, it's like, oh, that's two of them. Yeah, okay, they've hit them twice. That should be them destroyed now.
Borg weapons aren't always that powerful.
I think they would have been on a tactical cube, though.
They just have the ability of being able to get through your shields.
Yeah, but you would think those torpedoes would be high yield.
Yes, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, and well, they're certainly not in this film, where they're barely any more powerful than your average grenade. When they're orbitally bombarding Montana, it should have wiped it off the map.
Well, yeah, but then short film.
Yeah.
Montana's been taken off the map. No first contact. Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's just bizarre.
Let's find somewhere to spend the rest of our lives and self-destruct the ship so that we don't contaminate timeline. Yeah. End of Star Trek.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course they had to make the weapons slightly less powerful than they would actually be. And some could say it might not even been torpedoes, might have been disruptor shots.
Maybe, yeah. I think they were torpedoes, though.
Because it's never actually disclosed what they're shooting.
No, but they would be more powerful than your average grenade.
They would be, definitely.
Yeah.
But like you say, that would have wiped out the entire complex and 30-40 miles around.
Yeah.
So that would have been a short. That would have been a very, very short film.
Yeah, it would have been. But other than that, I mean, it's just that this is nitpicking, right? It doesn't really hurt the film too much. So
no,
I'm not saying this is a crap film because the Borg didn't wipe Montana off the map within 2 minutes.
You can see past that. We've seen that kind of thing, all through the series and other films as well.
Yeah.
It's just, for some reason or another, they don't have that same effect at that point.
It's like Clark Kent wears the glasses and no one recognises that he's Superman. Get over it.
Exactly. So if you can believe that, you can believe this. Thank you very much. Next.
Yeah. But anyway, back to what I was saying about the Borg. I keep getting distracted by other Star Trek stuff. Bloody Star Trek.
Damn it.
I think the introduction of a Borg Queen in this film is a mistake, and I think it's actually the downward spiral. Like in Return of the Jedi, how the Ewoks are the start of what the nonsense you get in the prequels. In this, I think the Borg Queen is kind of counter to what the Borg are supposed to be about.
It is kind of counter, yeah, but it's also it's explained. She brings chaos.
It is. It's cryptically explained.
Wait. She brings order to chaos, yes. You have a hive mind, but even the way I see it, I think this is the way I saw it explained. A beehive. All the bees bees are working together. They can operate independently, but they also work well together. But they have this one queen that sends out chemical signals. Right, do this, do that, do the other. So it kind of makes sense in that perspective.
It does, but I also don't think the Borg needed it.
No, I don't think so. No, but it is what it is. She's there.
Yeah.
And she is a focal point for anger and for things happening.
Yeah, believe it or not, she exists because of studio execs. They said that the people wouldn't respond to the Borg being this disembodied voice, which I disagree with.
Well,
I think if Data had been talking to the hive mind, it would have been fine.
Studio execs very rarely know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah,
I mean, to this day, they still don't understand why Star Trek works.
Yeah,
and they've shown they don't understand it.
Yeah. So the Borg Queen is... Well, it's the start of the downward spiral for the Borg, because then she just becomes this other voice on a view screen in Voyager, and then it's not so great. But in this film, I think she's fine because Alice Krieg, I think you pronounce it, has presence.
Yes. She's a very good actress.
Yeah, and interestingly, she spends very little time interacting with Patrick Stewart.
Indeed.
They only have one scene together.
No, exactly. She's there for Data.
Yeah. And she's there to tempt Data, and you can sort of... And those scenes are quite good. The way that she puts skin on him, and the fully functional...
I think... Indeed. I think what they went with there is, with the Locutus fiasco, she understood that humans do not desire to be assimilated. Therefore, Picard fought her all the way. So that, therefore, using a human to bridge the gap isn't going to work. So we need something that we need someone who we can tempt in other ways. Enter Data.
Yeah,
and she thought she had worked. Cool. She thought it had worked.
Yeah, they do a really cool bait and switch with that, because it does. Certainly, the first time I saw it, I remember being convinced. And oh no, he's one of them. And I remember being in the trailer that he does the "resistance is futile" line. Because they used that for the trailer, because Data needs a trailer line apparently. And then he fires the torpedoes at the Phoenix.
Indeed.
For some reason, fires 4, which feels a bit overkill. So that'll be 1, and then the other 3 will just pass through.
Yeah, indeed. The Phoenix wouldn't have survived even the impact, let alone the explosion.
Yeah. So
of the first one,
it's a bit overkill, but it's the fact that he messes up the trajectory just a little bit, so they fly off to the side, and then luckily there's no side windows on the Phoenix at that point. So
I remember hearing some gasps in the cinema. When Data goes, no.
Yeah, and it's the resistance is futile is the kind of middle finger to the Queen as well.
Indeed, I like that, even though I hate the way he pronounces futile. It's futile, not futile.
Yeah, well, Data always had his own way of saying things.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But you'd think that Data would know how to pronounce futile.
Yeah.
But hey, that's just a small thing.
Although the holographic Doctor pronounces it futile as well.
Nah, Americans.
Resistance is futile.
Yeah, but anyway, the bait and switch works. It's really good.
It certainly does. I mean, it took me by surprise.
Because Picard believes it as well.
Indeed, he does. He truly believes, and of course, importantly, the Queen does as well. She thinks she's got him,
and she's dispatched pretty quickly, obviously.
Oh, she is. Yeah. I think that's a shorthand for your arrogance and your technological superiority will do you no good.
Yeah. Yeah, and Data's always good. He's one of my favourite characters as well. I think Brent Spiner is just great.
And his makeup in this film, that was insane.
Yeah, except the bit where his face is made out of plaster when they're drilling into it.
Yeah, although...
Because it's sort of skin-like up until that point, and then you've got the whole... it's like they're drilling into plaster.
Yeah, you see past that, though.
Yeah, obviously it's special effect and stuff, but
the whole side of his face being raw android, that was awesome. You always wanted
Phantom
to know
of the Opera type thing.
Yeah, you always wanted to know what he looked like underneath the artificial skin. Well, we do.
Yeah.
Lots of randomly blinking lights.
Yeah, lots of LEDs for some reason.
Yep. Oh, they went crazy with LEDs,
everywhere.
didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah. We can afford LEDs.
You know, I noticed something. So, in one of the assimilation sequences that you see when they're assimilating crew members,
yeah.
the woman that's got the thing on her eye, and then you see the other one put the external eye module down. The transparent bit on it, it's actually it looks like anyway, the top of the warp crystal from an Enterprise A. Looks like they've just taken that, not painted it, put it down, and then stuck more greeblies on it.
Oh.
If you look back into it, because you see it in full screen, it's right there. It's quite obvious. It's a hexagonal piece of plastic with raised sections, which would have been the frame around the panes of glass or crystal or whatever it's made out of. On the Enterprise. So there you go. I noticed that I was like,
Fantastic.
So, even in this film, despite the budget, they're using bits of Star Trek models and stuff like that.
Yeah, they always did that, didn't they?
They always did, and I liked how they did that. They just added that little bit in. I mean, they could have gotten a completely custom bit made. No, let's use bits from Ertl models.
Yeah, there's weird with Data is a bit inconsistent in between films, actually, all of them, because at first in Generations they say that the emotion chip was fused into his neural net and couldn't be removed, and then so essentially at the end of Generations he was stuck with it. He was stuck with emotion. He had to deal with it like anybody else does, and now by First Contact, for whatever reason, he can turn it off and on.
That has been the subject of many a discussion between me and my friends over the years.
Yeah. And then he can remove it in the next film.
Yes.
And then there's no mention of it in Nemesis whatsoever.
No.
So
no, because it's not pertinent to any conversation in Nemesis.
Yeah, but he's also not showing any emotion in Nemesis either.
No, I suppose he's not.
There was something in the novelisation about it overloaded or something like that, but it doesn't work anymore.
I think as I said, me and my friends, we've had many discussions about this over the years, and I think we all mostly agree on that. In between of Generations and First Contact, Geordi and Data obviously did some work and figured out, okay, it's not actually completely fused. We can reverse this and fixed it.
Yeah, well, it was Dr. Crusher that made the determination, wasn't it? Yeah, what does she know about cybernetics?
Indeed. So
she knows about as much about cybernetics as Troy knows about piloting.
Oh, burn!
Yeah.
To be fair, the ship was already out of control when she took the seat.
Yeah. Well, no, not at that point.
Actually, no, it wasn't. No, you're quite right. But
the first thing she does is turn all the main guns away from the enemy. Which is,
for some reason,
fantastic piloting.
Like, it's brilliant. You see those phasers that could just vaporize the enemy. Yeah. Let's make sure that they're not pointing anywhere near it.
Yeah, bloody Troy.
Because that's a good idea.
Yeah.
The other thing.
Yeah, although in this film she gets drunk, which is funny.
It's funny, you know. It is, and the way she then just collapses on the table as well.
Yeah, and I've always enjoyed Jonathan Frakes' acting, and it's kind of it's especially apparent in scenes like that where he's not the focus. But if you watch him during those scenes, he's acting his ass off. You know, you see a lot of people who are just quite passive in these kind of scenes, but he's sitting there grinning away and reacting, and it's quite good. You know, I always like how even if you watch view screen chats where Picard's standing in front of the view screen, if you watch Riker in the background, he's always up to something.
He is. He definitely is. He's often overlooked.
Yeah.
But in this film, he does pretty well. He does. He's a real. I like that the line as well when she says, "I'm just trying to blend in," and says, "Oh, you're blended all right."
You're blended all right. Yeah.
That's just brilliant.
I needed 3 shots of something called tequila to find out he was the one I'm looking for.
Yeah, before you tell me that. Yeah. Brilliant.
Oh, it's great. And obviously he's about to, have a little chair dance to the music, and that's when her face hits the table.
Yep. And then he's starting to jive along with the music, and then she flumps down, and he just sort of like, what the? It's like, oh no, she's out, she's gone.
Yeah, and
I think we have to tell him the truth.
If we tell the truth, the timeline...
Timeline? This is no time to argue about time. We don't have the time. What was I saying?
You're drunk.
I am not.
Yes, you are.
Look, he wouldn't even talk to me unless I had a drink with him. And then it took 3 shots of something called tequila just to find out he was the one we're looking for. And I've spent the last 20 minutes trying to keep his hands off me. So don't go criticizing my counseling technique.
Sorry.
It's a primitive culture. I'm just trying to blend in.
You're blended, all right.
there's all sorts of little good moments like that on the planet's surface. I think that's where most of the comedy in the film comes from.
Yep. And they didn't need to, but squeezing Reg in.
Yeah, having Barclay there, that was...
Yeah, and him geeking out. Yeah. You know, just going completely starstruck. It's just that is just so wonderful.
And they still didn't manage to get rid of Barclay between ships. They got a new ship and he's still there.
It's like, oh my god, I just seen who's been reassigned. Yay!
Yeah. Oh jeez. Barclay's back. Oh no.
Like somebody tell him the ship's been destroyed. Oh no, he's standing right behind me, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, but that's where most of the comedy comes from, and you've got the whole first confirmation that people pee in the 24th century.
I got to take a leak.
Yeah,
leak. I'm not detecting any leak.
Yeah, that was good. And obviously he gets phasered, and
that's a nice little scene as well, where he gets phasered and he falls into that little stream, and is like, brother.
Yeah, it's great. And I can't really think of anything further to say about the surface stuff, because it's kind of a bit,
the music.
I suppose.
The music. Yes. Yeah. The music. I love the music. It's like, we can't leave without it.
Yeah.
You know, and that music just fits that scene so wonderfully.
Yeah. And I've got with his little, what are those things? What is that technology?
That little some sort of optical disc.
Yeah, those little mini disc things. It's like, this is what they'll be listening to, using to listen to music in the 21st century. Nope.
No, we've already beaten you with tiny little cards.
Yeah, that's something that Star Trek did not predict.
No.
Yeah.
They don't always get it right.
No. But I've always thought about when Enterprise, there was a big theory that there was a alternate reality. It was an alternate reality caused by, obviously, the events of this film, because there is a sequel event in Enterprise. And I've always kind of thought that theory has legs, because when people are saying, look, the design of Enterprise, it's kind of, it doesn't show that they're evolving into whatever the design will be later on, because it's fine, everything's great.
Yeah.
We nailed it first time, but Cochrane sees that shape.
He does. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I suggested that in a very similar conversation. Someone was poo-pooing Enterprise and saying it's bullcrap that they came up with that design straight away. They would have had something completely different first.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, well, no, wait. Cochrane was alive when they designed the ship, and Cochrane had seen a small image of the Enterprise in his telescope.
Also, a very large image of the Enterprise when he gets into orbit. Yeah.
Oh yes, indeed, yeah. But he doesn't see it he doesn't see the full axis of it. What I'm trying to say is he doesn't see the full design of it.
Yeah.
He only sees glimpses of it and certain angles, which are quite restrictive and don't show him the complete shape. And obviously, running off memory does funny things over the years. It's conceivable that what you see Enterprise being is what he remembers seeing.
Yeah, because it's that basic shape.
The basic shape. Saucer with two nacelles coming off it.
Yeah.
He just forgot about the... he can't recall the secondary hull bit.
Or couldn't find a way to get the engine to drag that entire structure.
Precisely.
Yeah. Limitations of his time and all that.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I can quite believe that would be a suitable in-universe explanation.
Yeah, and he heard the name, right? You know, he heard Enterprise. So
Yeah.
it's like, I'm going to call my ship that. But you could imagine that the timeline that Picard comes from, you know, if you subscribe to the Star Trek 2009, every instance of time travel creates an alternate reality type situation. Mm-hmm. Which, if you do, it could be that the timeline that Picard originally came from, Cochrane's, Archer's ship was called something else and looked different as well.
It's quite possible, and that's why there's no Enterprise model, the NX model, on the ready room.
Yeah.
Sorry, the observation lounge of the Enterprise D.
Yeah, other than that they didn't come up with it yet, but yeah.
Indeed. Or, exactly, or in the rec room of the Enterprise in motion picture. Yes, they didn't come up with the idea at the time, but the in-universe explanation could well be that.
Yeah, could be. We'll never know. It's all speculation. It's fun speculation.
It's speculation, yeah, and some people will go, that's crap.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking out of your butts. And other people will go, yes, actually, I can prescribe to that. Yeah, I believe, that's a very good idea. I mean, personally, that's the way I've been explaining it to myself. And I think that's why it annoys my friend. One of my friend hates how Enterprise conceivably destroys all of canon.
Well, I mean, I think every aspect of Star Trek destroys canon in some way.
In one way or another.
Nothing's consistent.
Exactly. If you look and examine all of Star Trek, at one point or another, every single iteration of it has screwed up something from the other iterations.
Yeah.
It just, no matter how... I mean, I think the only exception would be probably the original series, seeing that the original series was the beginning. You can't fault it for screwing anything up.
Well, that was inconsistent throughout because they were laying the groundwork and coming up with ideas. But what you have is ideas, and you know, I think they call Starfleet Space Central in season 1 and stuff like that until they come up with Starfleet. And
then you had United Spaceship as well.
Yeah, and there was the United Earth Space Probe Agency that apparently they represented.
I remember that as well.
Yeah.
And that suddenly just disappeared out of reference.
Yeah, and people have retconned it to mean that, you know, it is a division of Starfleet or something. You know, it's that kind of stuff. But
or a very, very early...
Yeah, I think
some people say that's what Enterprise is representing.
Yeah, except it's not, because it's a Starfleet ship. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just the Earth Starfleet.
Indeed.
As opposed to Federation Starfleet.
Because the Federation doesn't exist at that point.
Which gets around the whole Spock was the first Vulcan in the Federation Starfleet.
Well, yeah, exactly. He was the first Vulcan in the Federation Starfleet, not Earth Starfleet.
Yeah, and as we know, Vulcans embrace technicality.
Indeed. I'm a Vulcan, we embrace it. Was that T'Pol that said that?
No, it was Spock in Into Darkness.
Oh yes, indeed. Yeah, one of his best lines. I like. Yeah, I remember it now.
Yeah,
because he's getting.
I remember too much about that damn film.
It has its moments. It has its moments.
Well, we did a whole podcast on it.
Yeah, exactly. We've had that discussion.
Let's not have it again. I'll never have to watch it again. It's gone. I don't need it anymore.
Let's not put you through that again.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've burned our way through most of the film, I think. I don't think we've missed that much, but obviously we haven't talked about the ending, which is historic, as I listed in my notes.
Love the music for it.
Yes, it's that kind of...
That whole scene, lovely.
Yeah, it's that whole sense of destiny, almost. You know, this kind of history is being made before our eyes, and I love how the Next Generation crew are standing in the back, just taking it all in, but making sure they don't get noticed as well.
Exactly, they're just standing in the background, just being part of the larger crowd that's watching. Yeah. Because they're in civilian clothing as well, so they blend in, and then they just quietly disappear as the Vulcans get down to talking.
Yeah, and yeah, and Cochrane obviously doesn't make the best first impression, but he does the handshake thing, which is he tries to do the salute and then he does the handshake.
If I remember correctly, James Cromwell can't actually do the salute. He can't actually do it. So you seeing him struggling is genuine, apparently.
Yeah, fair enough. But he tried, and that's the important thing. That's the kind of cultural diversity that they're trying to promote. And then when you think about what the Vulcans become in early Enterprise, it's a bit strange, you know. But
It certainly is, but then those were slightly different Vulcans to what we knew from original series onwards, which gets explained, and it gets explained. I mean, 'cause at first I thought I didn't quite like the brashness and the arrogance of the Vulcans in Enterprise until it was explained to me.
Yeah.
Is it in season 5 or is it in season 4?
There is no season 5.
No, yeah. Do you know why I said that? Because I've just looked at a graphic from, how Doug Drexler did a refit design for the Enterprise.
That's right.
That's up on my screen with a save season 5 now graphic. Because they were trying to get a season 5 for Enterprise, but
it's not going to happen.
No, Discovery has put that to bed.
It was never going to happen.
It was never going to happen, but now with Discovery, it's definitely never, ever, ever, ever going to happen again.
No.
But no, there was that design. That's why I said that. Yeah, but and then it gets explained, and I'm like, okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah, and it's a great ending. It's just
getting back,
and it's great how he plays the music. You know, and the Vulcan just stands up, and it's like, whoa.
No, there's just music. It's just music because it's Vulcans have got good hearing, so hearing music at that decibel, that he was already playing it really loud. That would have been a little shocking for them. They're like, what on earth?
But it's also the fact that Cochrane is clearly, by their standards, uncultured.
Yeah, indeed. He's also. I don't know if he's had a bit to drink at that point or not, but
probably.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah, he's feeding them drink, presumably tequila, which is a god awful thing to give someone who's new to the planet. It's just a brilliant scene. You see him dancing away, and then Lily looks up and she sees the Enterprise warp off into that distortion, and then you've got the music.
Yeah, and it's the rest is history, as they say.
Precisely. Nothing more needs said.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's like, okay, because it tells you that the kind of, the way Cochrane is around the Vulcans, the fact that he's quite insensitive to their needs, and he's playing them, bad music, or, well, the music isn't that bad, but he's playing them pretty offensive sounding music, it's quite loud and all that stuff, and he's not acting like your traditional diplomat would. It's not as if he's a UN ambassador. He's just some guy, that built a warp engine. So he's their first taste of Earth, and you can see how that might hurt relations a bit. They're like, well, they've discovered warp drive, but they're like, you should see their planet. It's insane. It's it's burnt to a crisp. This guy's a lunatic.
And it has already been preceded by the fact that. They weren't actually going to have a look at Earth because they found it too primitive.
Yeah.
And the only reason why they go and look at Earth is because they detect the warp signature. And then they go, well, these people might not be as primitive as we thought they were.
And it's like, nope, they are.
Yeah, they are. Oh, well. So, let's keep them out of the cosmos for 100 years.
Yeah. And bit of trivia, apparently the Vulcan that lands is Sarek's grandfather.
Now that I hadn't heard of.
Solkar. It was mentioned in an episode of Enterprise. It was in the Catwalk episode. One of the ensigns or crewmen or something asks Archer. They're doing a quiz because they're bored and they're sitting in nacelle casings. They're doing a quiz and it's like, what's the name of the first Vulcan? The Vulcan that made first contact, and he's like, Solkar, I think. So Sarek's grandfather.
That's cool.
That's a connected family.
Yeah, and it's not Pierce Brosnan that's playing him, even though he looks remarkably like Pierce Brosnan from the time.
Oh, he does a bit, yeah.
He does. At first, I thought it was. I had to watch the credits.
He has one line, doesn't he? It's just "Live long and prosper." That's all he ever says.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That's all he says. He even sounded slightly like him.
Yeah, a little bit, I suppose. Yeah. I never really made that connection, but now I see it in my head.
Mm-hmm. Watch that scene and listen to it as well, and he sounds and looks a lot like Pierce Brosnan from of the time.
But yeah, it's a great ending. It's an absolute.
It is. There's you've got "Live long and prosper," and then that's it. That's the last words, isn't it?
Other than the words of the song, yes.
Other than the words from the song, there is no
I think Cochrane
dialogue.
says thanks or something like that. And then after that, you've got Picard's goodbye to Lily.
Yes, he does. Yeah, indeed. No, you're quite right.
And Picard has that quite poignant speech with Lily where, she says, "I envy you the world you're going to, and I envy you taking the first steps into a new frontier."
Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite powerful.
I just seem to recall, for some reason, that was before the Live Long and Prosper bit, but no, I think you're right.
You gotta go. I envy you. The world you're going to.
I envy you. Taking these first steps into a new frontier. I shall miss you, Lily.
Yeah, and there's some technobabble nonsense up on the Enterprise where it's the moon disguised her warp signature so the Vulcans didn't detect us. Right then.
They can detect a warp signature from across the sector.
Yeah,
but they can't detect a warp signature from behind a moon.
Yeah, right then. Okay, whatever. Yeah, okay. The Vulcans couldn't see us. We needed a line to explain that. Now we're off. Oh yeah, and we've just recreated the time travel conditions of the Borg sphere because that's easy, apparently.
Well, yeah, indeed. The way I see it, they had the records of the signature.
Yeah, well, you don't want them to spend 20 minutes trying to get back to the future, do you? I mean,
indeed, you just gloss over the fact that they've probably spent time figuring it out, figuring how to do it while they've been watching First Contact happen. So
they just need to get back. Yeah, it's not like, as I've said, time travel is not important in this film.
No, indeed.
It's just a catalyst for the story. It isn't actually the story. Whereas if you look at The Voyage Home, it's all about time travel. It's about this is how difficult it is to get here, and this is how difficult it is to get back.
Yeah.
Part of the mission is getting the ship ready to return.
You could say that the plot, the time travel in this film is just basically the plot device.
It is. It basically is, yeah.
And there's nothing more to it, really.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it. I mean, the fact that the Enterprise crew have significantly contaminated the future is neither here nor there, apparently.
Indeed.
Cochrane and Lily both know everything. They both know about the Federation. They know everything. There's... in fact, they could just design the next 200 years if they wanted to.
Indeed, they know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or what should happen.
Or they know how things end up, certainly. They don't know how they end up there, but the same people have to make the same decisions in order to get to that point.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's not just down to them, but it's interesting.
They may have taken the bigger view of it and just decided not to say anything.
Yeah, apart from when Cochrane's drunk and talks about some cybernetic life forms from the future.
Well, indeed. Exactly. and no one believes him at that point.
Yeah. Because he was frequently intoxicated, as T'Pol says.
Another little trivia info of that episode.
Mm-hmm.
When they're scanning the wreckage on the frozen tundra, where is it? Is it the Antarctic? The North Pole?
I think it's the Arctic, yeah. One of them.
It's one of them. A cold place.
Yeah.
You've got all this snow-covered stuff. The forward section of the Enterprise E's saucer section is standing upright behind them.
Yeah, the model, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the one that they used in Nemesis, one of the models that they used in Nemesis in Nemesis they actually made two big models and rammed them together.
Yeah.
That's not CGI that you see. That's just two models that are upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So
and they just hit them. Yeah.
Indeed. So you've got this forward section. They didn't actually cut the Enterprise E model up.
Yeah.
For that episode, it's just one of the unused rammable sections, and they just spray painted it white.
Good times.
Indeed. I didn't spot it at first until someone pointed it out to me. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it's there's all sorts of interesting little tidbits of facts here and there.
If you look into it hard enough, there are links and in-jokes to all Star Trek in all of Star Trek.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, people like to reference stuff.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to look for sometimes. And when
Yeah.
when I'm building my MSDs, I always put in jokes and little references here and there.
And why not?
Indeed, it's tradition.
Yeah. So I think probably we've exhausted most of the film, but I think the last thing, it'd be good to talk about Next Generation's viability as a movie franchise, because obviously they're the least rated films of the overall Star Trek film franchise, of course.
Indeed, yeah.
In general, anyway. And it's interesting to at least theorise as to why that is. For me, it feels like the problem with Next Generation is it was an ensemble show. Original series wasn't. Original series had 3 main characters, so the films had 3 main characters, and then all the supporting people. You had films where Sulu had like 5 lines because whatever, he's not
Indeed.
important. Whereas Next Generation, everyone got a chance to have a go.
Indeed.
Which is what means as a film franchise there was no core, so they picked the core of Picard and Data in all 4 films.
I think this very film we're talking about, First Contact, shows that it can work if you've got a good enough scriptwriter and a good director.
It works, but they focus on Picard and Data again.
Indeed. Well, in all through the series, the episodes focused on different people at different times.
Yeah.
Now, I think they suffered by having... Generations was okay. First Contact was okay. But Insurrection and Nemesis, they're not a shadow on the former 2. And I think that's what killed off.
I would say Nemesis is better than Generations, personally.
Yeah, I would say they're more on par. I mean, Nemesis isn't the best of the films, but it has its good bits and it has its bad bits. We finally see the bridge take a hit and a big massive hole torn into it.
Yeah.
It's something that we've been not wishing to happen, but it should have been seen more often. I mean, yes, we do see a bit of it in Enterprise.
That would be before Nemesis came out as well.
Yes, but we don't see too much of it. In this one, we see the inside and the effects that has.
Yeah.
And it's just the entire Tychon's Rift battle scene was brilliant. It is Tychon's Rift, isn't it?
I think it's the Basin Rift.
The Basin Rift. That's it.
Yeah.
That scene, when the screen goes blank, it says, "Well," and Data says, "the rift is causing communications." Such and such and such and such will be off, and then he just stops and he just instantly understands what's going to happen.
We've lost our Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah, exactly. We've lost Wi-Fi. Everybody start running around like headless chickens.
Yeah, there's no Wi-Fi on the ship.
It's almost as bad as the coffee machine going offline.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
exactly. We have no warp drive. We have no impulse. We've got 20 minutes of air left.
But there's coffee.
And the ship's about to explode. Are you telling us everything? Not exactly. There's no coffee. That's at that point. That's when everybody loses their mind.
Yeah, and it's definitely it's definitely has legs as a film franchise. But I don't think you would ever have a film that Dr. Crusher is the lead. But the thing is,
no.
Not Nemesis. First Contact is unique in that it gives her something to do.
Yes,
it's not much. But she has something to do.
She does have something to do, yes.
She has that badass moment where she clearly hates the holographic doctors thing. She hates the idea of an EMH, which, that tells you something about her as a person.
Indeed.
A little bit, plus it gets you a really cool Robert Picardo cameo.
You know how he got that?
No, I probably do, but I've probably forgotten.
He just kept on going on and on and on about how it would be cool to have... the Doctor in it, because this film was post Voyager, so it makes sense that the Enterprise, the newest ship in the fleet, would have it would have an EMH and everything like that. He kept on going and going on and on and on and on and on and on. And eventually,
it's the same sick bay, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. And eventually, Rick Berman went, "You know what? Would you like a small part?"
Yeah, fair enough.
Because Robert Picardo, and he said this in a talk. He says the main point is to make them think it's their idea. So he kept on planting the seed in Berman's mind.
Yeah.
Rick Berman. And eventually Rick Berman turned around to him and says, "We think we've got an idea for you." "Oh, really? Please tell me."
"I'll see if I'm available."
Yes, indeed. So,
Computer, activate the EMH program.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
20 Borg are about to break through that door. We need time to get out of here. Create a diversion.
This isn't part of my program. I'm a doctor, not a doorstop.
Well, do a dance. Tell a story. I don't care. Just give us a few seconds.
According to Starfleet medical research, Borg implants can cause severe skin irritations. Perhaps you'd like an analgesic cream?
And you have Ethan Phillips as the maitre d'.
Oh yeah, I don't know how he got that role. Maybe that was purely because they were filming Voyager, and they just wanted. He just said they probably just needed someone for a maitre d', and they went, "Fancy the part?"
Yeah, you would never know it was him anyway. I don't think he's even credited.
No, he isn't. It is uncredited. It's an uncredited cameo. Is Robert Picardo's credited? I can't remember.
I think he is. I think he must be credited. Yeah, he's got quite a meaty scene though.
Yeah, and it's a good scene as well.
But it does, that scene tells you about Crusher. You know, she's old school Doctor-wise.
I swore I'd never use one of these. But and she doesn't actually use them for the intended purpose.
No.
I'm a doctor, not a doorstop. Lovely.
Yeah, it's a good cameo. So, she gets something to do. It's not much, but it's a little bit. She gets bugger all to do in Nemesis.
Yeah, there's not much.
She holds a tricorder at people's face. And
yeah.
I suppose she does talk to Picard about how he used to be Tom Hardy. At one point.
Yeah.
It's like, remember him? It's like, no.
Retconning. Retconning, yes.
I seem to remember you having hair when you were a cadet, but okay.
But that's all she does.
Yeah. So I think ensembles are harder to do in films like this, and the problem is, like, in Nemesis, for instance, you could cut Geordi out and it would make no difference.
Yeah. You could cut Crusher, Geordi, even Worf.
Yeah, you could get rid of and they only gave Riker an action scene for no reason, but
for and giggles. Oh, sorry, that's another.
More photon torpedoes. No, he's so he could fight over a giant bottomless pit at the bottom of the ship.
Yeah, exactly. They're on deck 20. My friend has made up a deck listing, and he says deck 29, and it says bottomless pit to nowhere.
Yeah,
is part of the deck listing.
Well, the decks aren't even consistent in this film.
No,
it's 26 at one point, and then Picard says there's only 24.
Indeed. It goes all over the place, and even the MSD that you see in the Enterprise on the bridge isn't consistent with the exterior of the ship.
Yeah.
Basically, because Doug Drexler, who drew it off what was at that point the current design and final. But like any designer will tell you, final does not mean final.
It will change.
And at the last minute, they changed it again, but they had no time to. He had no time to do another MSD, so it just stayed the shape it is, which is almost nearly the correct shape.
Fair enough.
And the script writers, obviously, everybody was writing their own scene, and not one of them talked to each other.
Yeah.
When it came to the technicalities, like the number of decks.
Yeah.
And then, Nemesis also had a director who just did not get Star Trek at all.
Of course, yeah. I do think that under certain circumstances, Next Generation could be viable as a film franchise. This film proves it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say. First Contact proves that with the right story, with the right scripting, and the right director, the Next Generation was, and in my mind still is, a viable film franchise.
Well, I think we're still missing out on that final, last hurrah for the cast that we never really got. I mean,
Indeed.
if you watch the deleted scenes on Nemesis, you get some of that.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
they're great scenes.
I think they really should have put those scenes in.
Yeah.
The director obviously didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah, where Worf inherits the cat. That's a great scene.
Yep, and you've got and then you've got Riker playing a joke on his replacement.
Yeah.
Telling him to call Captain Picard Jean-Luc.
Yeah.
And the only person on the ship, of course, who gets away with that is Crusher.
Yeah, or Guinan.
Oh, Guinan, yes, Guinan.
Well, she called him Picard more often than not.
She did, but she called most people by their surname as well.
And I do think that the Next Generation send-off should have had Q in it at some point, because he started it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know what would have been really nice? It's him taking them right back to that courtroom.
Yeah. Be kind of annoying, maybe, but no, it would maybe work.
But him in his judge's robes again, saying, we have now passed judgment, and we find you worthy, or whatever or not.
Yeah.
And that would have been... It just would have been a nice, sort of like, circle right back to where it began.
Yep. Yeah, that would have worked, or could have worked. Yeah,
could have worked. Even the deleted scenes, as we've seen, would have been better than what we got.
Yes.
I mean, yes, I kind of like the idea that B4 started humming away at that diddly that Data was working on, that Data sung. It kind of gives the idea that maybe he could develop into a Data 2 in the future, but we needed more than that.
Well, it's exactly Wrath of Khan anyway. I mean, they've been copying that since Nemesis, really.
Yeah, since Nam.
Yeah. Yeah, I think on that note, we should wrap this up. We've talked for a long time about First Contact and the rest of the franchise.
Indeed, we've covered quite a lot, actually. Yeah. I hope we haven't put everybody to sleep.
Well, I'll sound Red Alert again, and then I'll just pepper it throughout the edit.
You evil man.
No,
I like your style.
It's too much work. If there's one thing I hate more than anything else, it's hard work.
or to paraphrase Crichton from Red Dwarf, are you sure you want to go to Red Alert? It does require changing the bulb.
It needs the bulb changed, yeah. So, do you have anything final to say about First Contact, other than, this most joyous of days in the Star Trek calendar?
It's a film that anytime if I'm channel surfing with nothing better to see and it's on, no matter how many times I've watched it, that's where I would stop channel surfing and I'd just watch it.
Yeah, I'd be the same.
It's one of these films that you can watch umpteen times. I try not to watch it too often, but it's one of these films that I would always watch if it's on and there's nothing else for me to do.
Yeah.
It's all the other films apart from number 2 and number 4, kind of hit and miss. I'll find something else to do. But this one and number 2 and number 4, I'll always stop and watch.
There we go. My final thoughts are: I like this film. I like talking about it. I enjoyed rewatching it the weekend. I'll rewatch it next week when it's not work, when I don't have to take notes throughout. That'll always be good. So I'll rewatch it on the day itself, and yeah. So I hope everyone's having a prosperous First Contact day. There we go.
Live long and prosper, everybody.
Live long and prosper.
Or peace and long life.
And peace and long life. And live fast and die young.
Yep. Never give up, never surrender. Oh, wait, sorry, wrong franchise. Best non-Star Trek film ever.
Yes. And there'll be a podcast on that one day, perhaps.
Oh, do invite me.
Well, there we go. There's some spoilers for the future. I
actually got to see that. You know where I first saw that? A Star Trek convention.
Oh, I first saw it on VHS. Yeah, VHS. Anyway, happy First Contact Day, everybody. Have a Trek-tastic day. Thus concludes our long discussion on Star Trek First Contact. A special thank you to YouTuber 331 eRock for the supplied music. And if you like what you heard here, please subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, or any major podcasting app. We hope you'll join us in the next Kneel Before Pod.